The written Torah consists, according to the Machaber, of the 24 books of what you call the Old Testament, Torah and Yibum. Third Mishnah. This is the Torah, the Torah Shabbat, the oral law that explains the Torah Shabbat, the written law. Perish Torah Shabbat, the clause, and the explanation of the written law is in this Torah Shabbat. And Shlish B'Talmud, and the third in Talmud. What is Talmud? We have several explanations of Talmud.
Made up both of Tanakh and Mishnah.
The Talmud is made up of Gemara. That means that you understand and become wise and discern all the ramifications of the Torah of Peh. Understand it. And if there's any difficulties, you can clarify them. This is explained many places. There's the Lamed Gimel that Rashi explains there what the Talmud is, talking about if you have a difficulty, you have a contradiction one with the other, and you have a third place to go and make both things operative. And go further, you learn something from something else. You know one fact, and then you learn an additional fact from that fact, and you compare one thing to another thing.
So you're supposed to divide up your learning
in three parts.
In 3 parts, but how long does that continue?
All right, we're going to learn that. We're going to come there right now.
Throughout your years?
We're going to go and continue. And you go and you, according to the very standards the Torah is supposed to be interpreted by. You remember the standard, the 13 that Rabbi Yishmael, we learn, we daven every morning.
Yes.
Rabbi Yishmael says that you're there until what the most important derivation of each commandment is, and why it is, and what's its extent, and how you should decide what's something that is prohibited or permitted, principle. And like this, that you've learned out tradition. For instance, the Noah says, how is this thing? If a person is a person that is a artist, he has a profession of some kind, or he's got some trade or some kind of profession, and he engages in his work to make a living 3 hours a day. And then he has 9 hours left to engage in learning Torah. Spend 3 of it in the Torah, the written. 3 hours in those. And 3 hours to understand one thing from another. They can spend the whole...
Teachers would be very busy if that's where...
We're only talking about a boss. We're not talking about somebody learning, just about a boss. When is this talk? When is this talk about? When he's just beginning to learn. When you're just beginning to learn, then you go and spend these 9 hours in this direction. But when you get to the point where you are beginning to learn on a very serious level, your competence increases, and you don't have to go and spend 3 hours every day learning the Tanakh, nor do you have to engage all the time in reviewing Mishnah. You can just review it periodically to keep it there. You can concentrate on the Gemara. On the Gemara, you just have to review the Tanakh and the Mishnah so you don't forget them. And you turn all your life to learning Gemara. But in the Gemara, according to the Babylonian Talmud, is got all 3 things. And this broadens your capacity to learn, and gives you ability to learn on a very high level. Mishnah and Gemara, and a person can observe, fulfill his obligation to all these things. But after you get to a certain poskim as well.
Okay.
Come after this. And with this, you can acquire this world as well as the world to come. For Olam Hazeh as well as Olam Haba.
That means you don't have to go to work. If you're learning the poskim already now, after you've been learning and poskim, then you don't have to spend no time there without going to work.
A person doesn't have to learn Ki'im, Ikra, Gemara, Poskim, and Moshkim, Olam Haba. Avalot, which you have to concentrate in any other, in order to form his portion of the world, this world. Now, I understand that. You must understand, it does not mean to imply. He earns.
Once you can forget about working.
I didn't say that. You said.
But he's saying this world and Olam Haba you're always going to get as a result of learning.
That's right.
But how do you get Olam Hazeh if you don't go out to work?
Right.
And according to this, you reach learning poskim, maybe you not to have to go to work to earn olam hazeh. That's what I'm understanding.
In order for a person to make a livelihood, it is not necessary to spend long.
Granted.
It's possible that you can make a livelihood in a relatively short space of time. Sure, too. It goes up and goes down too. The truth is
That's
that
more than 3 hours.
the truth is that if this Ramon it appears from here, we have a source like this. When the Jewish people come to that Madriga, where they are fit,
Will also
and
provide
God will provide for their necessities.
in this world.
As he did in the Dor Midbar. Dor Midbar,
Yeah.
they didn't have to work for food, except gathering it, preparing it.
Yeah, pick it up.
Not too much bother taking it. But the food was provided miraculously. The water was provided miraculously. Not wore out.
No washing machines, no
You
dryers.
didn't have to do anything. All you
always-
did was learning. That's also well they had, but they're not the same thing as some of the things
From the
that.
mom, they didn't have.
So whatever it is, the fact is that the Rabbi Shalom, of course, it depends on the degree in which a person gets into these. Most people, unfortunately, don't get to that degree at all. And not near it at all. We now have a concept of trying to think about polo, even after a person has got become a rabbi, even afterwards, even after he's married. In a sense, when you have people that are learning Torah on a serious, beyond their undergraduate years, you have a possibility of developing. You cannot really have a serious Talmud scholar unless a person really an awful lot of time
But
into learning.
the council is a man-made council.
The way you learn here Pshat, and I cannot say in all, would not necessarily eventually come to Olam Habo. Avolot Ribosh, Memhei, Talmidi. I'll have to look.
Have to look it up.
Obviously, we have many memoriams that tell us that if you go seriously learn Torah of making a living, it says there, Torah in common, unless you forget Pshat otherwise. You bring me the Gemara, and we've learned.
Great rabbi, because of the fact that we are going to.
I'm sorry if I don't want to waste your time.
No, I'm afraid that.
Obviously.
I don't know what you.
I mean, the only reason that I you call me rabbi, I do have to have that time. The part great, I must differ with you. That may be your perception. Unfortunately, a lot of these stories are true. I have no reason to doubt.
And it happened.
It happened in Israel. All right, so.
Mamzer and the child.
Was married though.
What?
The lady was married.
She was a married lady. Let me see. You're talking about the boy. I
A lady that lives next.
I am quoting now a Mishnah on a thing. This Mishnah is a very important Mishnah, and it talks about the various types of genealogy, exactly what a person is, who his parents are, and the circumstances of their becoming his parents. This is in the third chapter of Berkol, Ber Shlishi. Any place where there is a possibility of Kedushin. Kedushin is the first stage of it. In other words, when can there be Kedushin? There can be Kedushin only between two Jewish people, a Jewish man and a Jewish woman. There can never be Kedushin between a Jewish person and a non.
Even if it's performed by a Reformed rabbi.
Even a Reformed rabbi or anybody else. Even the Pope in Rome.
Even if the Reformed rabbi with the Pope and bring it
together.
Anybody cannot change the halacha. So you have a such concept as Kedushin is Tutsi. That means it's possible that America, we have to learn how to count in Hebrew. I think this is very simple. I mean, and it's no big deal. Aleph is 1,
Yeah.
Beis is 2, and you go all the way up to Yud is 10.
The base is 20.
And from 10, once you got to 10, if you want to say 11, you say Yud Aleph and 1. And you go all the way up like that, up to 20. 20 is up, the next letter. And then 30 is Ramen. And 40 is Mem, Nun. And 60 is is Sabbath.
All right.
All right, now we are in
And the
60,
law.
66.
That's what
Sabbath law.
No problem.
60 and Vav is 6.
Learn the secret.
A lot of the times, in order to find it, if you see it in the writing, they have one dot after Samach, 2 dots. That's one way of finding it. Other places, they go and all right, this is the way they usually print it in the Gemara. Now, right here in the Mishnah. Mishnah in the bottom, welcome, every place. You'll see. That means there is a possibility of both sides of the marriage being capable of effectuating a kosher Jewish marriage recognized by the Halacha as being operative. In order to be married, you've got to have a Jewish man and a Jewish woman that both of them, well, in this
Are
case,
from Jewish
on
stock on
Jewish
both
stock.
sides.
They ain't aware with
Oh,
it,
that
and they're
boy.
getting married together.
You try and get married in
Yeah.
Israel, and you'll find out how they search out your genealogy.
Right. There's no sin. The Torah does not prohibit in any way for this Jewish man to marry this Jewish woman. We have the ideal situation. There is Kedushin possible. First stage of marriage. Obviously, you can't go through the second stage. You can have Kedushin, then you have Chuppah. Or are the same thing. And the Chuppah and the Suin are the same thing. Just different. All right. Any place that you have, the child goes after the male of the marriage. This refers to a daughter of a Kohen, the daughter of a Levi. She married either a Kohen or Levi Yisrael. Like, for instance, my wife is a Bas Kohen. Her mother was a Bas lady, and she married a Kohen.
Okay.
Now,
Now you're confused.
my wife married me.
That's right.
I know this is hard for you to believe. At the
He's
same time, I
lost
got
already.
married, she got married. Around me several times. No, I had a wife. It was coincidental. God provides for this contingency.
You have
that in every Jewish wedding, you have both in a group. If you
The question that I meant to ask earlier. A man has to learn Torah every day and night of his life,
Yeah.
but there is an exception.
What?
His marriage night? Does he have to learn Torah that night?
Learn every day.
Every day, all right. Why is it when the chosin at the Tanoim, he starts to give a pilpul and they cut him off?
I know that.
Why is that? Why is that?
To quote to your wife at that time, consider this, that theoretically,
Putter only that time.
yeah, but this is a discussion. There's a discussion whether or not it lasts as long as he's able to, until he can actually consummate the marriage. Sometimes it takes him more than one night to do it. He has a difficulty.
All right.
Let's put it like this. It suffices to say there may be some kind of a header. Like, for instance, he got married and he was staying in Kriya Shema.
Yeah.
You just told us, you learned with us,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
He says, I'm not going to listen to you, not to accept upon myself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven.
He's telling them, but
You must understand.
But you have the.
God forbid, the most tar, the most during the whole year is on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, you can.
First of all, I got to worry about praying for my life and for the life of my loved ones and everything. I got enough on my hands the way it is. I got tired. Perhaps they'll be davening against the talk and I won't be able to learn anything.
Fortunately, in our shul, we managed to have an hour and a half recess.
Really?
We finished at 3:15, and people didn't have to come back until 5.
God provides for every contingency.
Yeah.
And during the davening, I slip in and I start learning and learning. It's my derech that I've been learning all the time in the Queen because I don't want to be frustrated and I certainly don't want a day to go by without learning Rabbi Hashem's Torah. And so the same thing applies to, of course, on Tisha B'Av too. I managed to go and put in learning.
What you have.
Of course, there are the Yoma, you got to learn about things that are sad and everything. But Baruch Hashem, there's enough in the Torah that you can keep yourself occupied learning at a steady level. And there's this thing now. So just an example in our family here, my mother-in-law married my father-in-law, and she was a Bas lady, he was a... Anyway, so of their descendants, since my mother-in-law was qualified to marry, she was not disqualified. There are disqualifications. A Kohen cannot marry certain types of individuals.
Oh, yeah.
If he marries a Gerusha, a divorcee, or somebody, or one that, or there, or if he marries a woman that has had sexual intercourse with a non-Jew, or something of that, or something that, if he marries, or if he's a Kohen Gadol, we don't have a Kohen Gadol, now he marries somebody,
If he was-
I don't know, something, but whatever it is, if he marries someone, she was qualified to be a wife of a Kohen, and he was a Kohen. Therefore, their children were either Kohanim or Bas Kohen. A Bas Kohen.
Yeah.
My wife was a Bas Kohen.
Okay.
No, and we married, and so our children are not qualified to marry that Jewish, and there's no sin in our marriage. It goes according to the father in this case. All right, that's the first
You
batch.
know, by the way, I don't know if this is cogent or not, or relevant. I once asked somebody why the order, the procession, and reading it, said because God was so smart, He anticipated Jews would.
Then the second qualification, there is a possibility of having a marriage. In other words, the Torah recognizes that if they attempt a marriage, it's recognized as being a marriage, the first stage of marriage. The Yesh Avera, but there is a sin involved there. They're either violating a negative commandment of the Torah or some other commandment of the Torah that they shouldn't be violating. Now, the child goes after the one that's blemished. What is this? One of the Kohen Gadol. If a Kohen Gadol marries a woman that is not a virgin, he marries of course nowadays we don't have to go in, so we don't have this problem at this point, but a Kohen Hedian, ordinary Kohen, can marry an Almona, but not a Kohen Gadol. And Grusha Chalus of a Kohen Hedian, an ordinary Kohen, this would have, I cannot marry a divorcee or a woman that had a first husband that died on her and didn't leave her any children, and she, therefore her despising brother had to give her a sort of something like a divorce. He freed her to marry other people. The ceremony is called. And once she's gone through this process, she's no longer qualified to marry a Kohen. So, if she went through this, if they got married, the child of such a marriage is not considered a Kohen. It's called a Kolo. He's profane. He cannot do the avoda. He doesn't have any of the privileges of a Kohen. It's because she's a Bas Kohen. She's blemished because she's a Gerusha.
All right. Okay. So what is it then? What does it mean that he
That does not. That means that he's no longer a Kohen. He's a Cholo, profane. He's no longer.
Even though she's a Kohen, it wipes him out from being a Kohen. So does he
You know,
drop
what
to a lady,
lady?
or does it drop him to a Yisrael?
A Cholo is something that is not considered the same degree.
But he can enter the ranks of Levian.
What? No, he's not.
If he couldn't be.
No,
Okay,
but anyway, he's a Cholo.
He's a high Yisrael.
Not well, whatever it is.
Maybe.
But I wouldn't consider it a high Yisrael.
Okay.
All right, whatever it is, let's continue. That's the second.
How many more?
Paris.
Now we came to
A mamzer comes out from a chayvi priestess. For instance, if God forbid a person lives with his daughter and has a child, or God forbid a person lives with another man's wife, not a Jewish man's wife, these children are considered. And if they say, for instance, they grow up and they want to marry Israel, or a Bas Israel marries a mamzer and a Nassim, didn't stick because they didn't stick to Judaism. Also, the senior, they stick to Judaism. Anybody that doesn't have on him kedushin, in other words, the person that marrying this person, a mamzer, if you are Masada kedushin, you're a rabbi and you're officiating, you're not permitted to marry the offspring of Jewish, a kosher Jew, and a mamzer is considered a Jew in the sense that the Torah recognizes marriage to this mamzeris. And a ger, for instance, a convert to Judaism, he can marry a ger, because a mamzer is not prohibited from marrying a ger. There we recognize the marriage. A rabbi can officiate such a marriage, but any children from that marriage will be mamzer.
That's a real good question. How does a mamzer connect with a mamzer? Is there a registry anywhere is the Mamzerim in Eretz Yisrael or here to permit such people?
This is a very difficult problem. because it involves human feelings, involves people that themselves personally
Are innocent on their
are
own.
on their own of any sinning. It's just that their parents unfortunately messed them up bad. But we cannot talk about what's messed up. We're talking about what we have to do in relation. As far as I know, there's no such thing as a thing. Most people don't want to broadcast that this is what I am.
Yeah.
Any one of the Arias Ketorah, all private creases. If a person lives, God forbid, with his mother and has a child, or with his daughter and has a child, these are considered private creases. You're not permitted to marry such a female relation. Other relations of that nature enumerated in the Torah. And these children become Mamzerim. Or if you live with another man's wife and she has children, those are Mamzerim. There. Now, but anybody that with this person that's involved with her, there cannot be any Kedushi between them. The child of Elad Kamoso, the child goes according to the mother. This is a child of a shiksa, of a Jewish man lives with a shiksa. There's no way in which this child would boy.
Yeah.
But if he's a goy, it wouldn't matter if he's a mamzer or not. What's the difference?
The difference is to marry a kosher Jew. If this child grew up and became a ger, he could marry a Bas Yisrael.
No, we're talking here where the child was a shiksa, the child was a goy. That's lower
That's
than
right.
They don't have the
It's not lower, because there's a possibility of this child
If-
being able to marry a Jew if he becomes a ger. But the mamzer cannot marry a Jew.
can marry a ger.
Only a mamzer or a ger.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Let's
that.
start it again.
You got this problem?
Let's start it again. Listen.
No problem, but I mean,
If a Jewish man lives with a shiksa and she has children, not mamzerim. Therefore, if a goy is a goy,
lives with a Jewish maidel, and they have children, what is the child?
Jewish.
Right.
The Jewish woman, the child is a Jew. In relation to this thing, that as far as I can determine, from the point of view there now, ordinarily, in order for, we have a situation like this. The more discusses this problem. Who's there?
It might have locked the door.
We have a taste in the suit. The Gemara discusses the problem. What if a Jewish woman in the ancient times, when the dominion over the Jewish population, the Romans and the Greeks, they were very cruel in the sense that they tried to eradicate Judaism. They did everything possible to eradicate, trying to discourage Jews from getting married. And one of their fiendish concepts was that in order to before a person could marry a Jewish woman, the ruling governor or the general of the area, the goy, possessed the woman before her husband possessed her. He would go to bed with her first. Of course, this is a concept of course repugnant to everybody, and this was the type of morality that existed in
They used to have only one day per month that the Jewish girls could get married. One day out of the month.
They made one
That like 500 get married that night.
To go and set up a day in the middle of the week when the Jewish women would get married, because they would give them enough time to prepare for the Suda and everything else.
So they
And
made it
so
like
all
one
the
day
boys-
only?
I'm very happy that you...
Yeah, I agree with that idea.
I'm very happy to know more.
I wanted to make it once a month.
We don't... Why? Well, listen, you want to get married, you want to get married. Now, then we said the concept of whether or not... What if a woman is raped? We talk about rape. A woman is raped, this is a case of rape, obviously. She's not, it's not her will.
Okay.
And if a Jewish woman is raped, the halacha is that she's still permitted to live with her husband.
After a period of time?
It goes to talk about that there are types of women that they would rather die than, no, unfortunately, so lax in their observance that they welcome excellence. It's very difficult. At any rate, the Gemara goes on to say, we have a taste this here. We say like this, the Drosh Lahu, the Onishori. He told her, if you ask a question, all I'm reading, we learned a Jew is permitted to violate the sin and rather to be put to death by the cruel a goy that's trying to force him to violate the sin, except one of the three top types of sins: worshiping idols, engaging in immoral sexual activity, and how can you say that this is permissible, that she should engage in this activity? Is one of the type of activities that we say she should not permit. And the Rabbeinu Tashi's grandson, if a Jewish woman is raped by a goy, she is not to be put to death. It says that the Torah considers the Shechva Zera, the sperm of a goy, as though it's like a horse. It's not considered an culture. Just as Gemara says right here that if you do it intentionally, you are in effect eliminated from that. I understand that the place is going to say that, but that's only if she's admitted willingly. Well, this is again, we're talking about Hechet Simsa, but there could be a possibility where a woman was tied up and engaged in some kind of perverse type of activity. So this. We got a big story, we got a big parade, and everybody is happy and happy. This woman is living with a goy. And the way we just learned the Mishnah, he could never marry her, al pi din halacha. He cannot marry a Jewish woman. And besides that, there's another little factor. She was already married to Mordechai.
Yeah.
But let's not get into all the ramifications of it.